Hey everyone, Jim White here with RealityCheck. Today I wanted to talk about Agile Research and kind of the state of it today and the future of it. And I'm enlisting some help today. With me is Ilana Borzak, who is Project Director and a Senior Insights Consultant at RealityCheck. Hi Ilana, how are you?
Good. How are you? I'm glad to
All
be here.
right, great, great. And Paula Kramer, who is a vice president and qualitative researcher at AHA, which is an online platform. Good morning, Paula. How you doing?
Good morning. Doing well.
All right. So agile research has become huge in our world as of late, and I think that insights folks, both on the client side and in market research vendors, are just under increasing pressure to deliver insights quicker and cheaper than ever before, and that's really sort of given birth to this rise. But I wanted to back up for just a moment and start with how you two define it and how you see clients defining agile research. What is it?
Yeah, so I think it's important to set the context a little bit, and that is we live in a world that demands everything, not even yesterday, but probably 2 days ago. Right? Said that the average professional receives more than 120 emails a day, and that's just the professional account, let alone what's happening in personal life. And so basically, we don't have the time that we once had, yet we still have the same goals or objectives that we need to hit. And I think that's the context in which all these methodologies like agile, sprint, and other things that suggest a fast pace, it's where they've emerged and flourished. And key to all of these, in research and not research, isn't only about going fast, though that is often a result of using some of these approaches. It's about approaching it in a smarter way that finds efficiencies yet doesn't diminish the quality of the result.
Yeah, and I think that's really the challenge: is how do you sort of accommodate the need for speed within business and business decision making without losing that quality piece. I don't know, Paula, how do you see clients sort of defining what an agile project is versus sort of traditional market research?
Yeah, I mean, I love what Ilana just said because I think that it captures how Agile is kind of shifting in our current environment. I think it's getting talked about a lot, but I think that it means something different for every organization. Everybody is sort of trying to figure out how they capture what is quote unquote Agile within their space. I think in our specific context, Agile just tends to mean as fast as is humanly possible. Like Ilana said, not yesterday, but the day before, maybe even the month before, because that demand just keeps growing. But it's super important that speed is not just there for speed's sake. Going fast is not always the right option. And so I think Agile has to fit within a very specific context. And so that's something that we really focus on is, making sure that Agile is the right fit for a particular situation and sort of helping people define why they might want to have that speed, what that speed looks like, and ultimately what they're trying to get out of it at the end.
So Paula, what if a client does say, and you determine that there is that need for, a quick turn on insights, what are the keys that you feel like are the sort of keys to success in an agile project?
Well, again, speed goes without question. Everybody is just looking for, what answers can I get as quickly as possible. But the structure of the project itself is extremely critical to its success, about laying out those key objectives ahead of time, making sure that everything has a very clear definition. There are just some methodologies that are not suited for an agile approach. This is not going to be the type of work where you're doing an in-depth ethnography with someone over the course of many days. This is something where you have a laser-focused objective. It's really about the need to know and not the nice to know. Nice to know doesn't really fit within the context of Agile, and having those defined parameters and set objectives really help keep the project on course and get you where you want to be.
Yeah, so managing those expectations, really a laser focus on the key objectives And I guess having clients realize that that's what we have to go after here, and those nice to know things we're going to have to save for another time. I don't know, Ilana, any thoughts on that? What are the keys in your mind to a successful Agile project?
Yeah, I love what Paula said, and to add sort of a research lens to that is that and how to approach this in a smart fashion is definitely having that laser focused objective, because then that helps the research be structured around what are the key questions that we need answered so that you as a client can move forward in the ways that you want. So that's structuring the research in such a way that uncovers those valuable insights quickly and effectively. On the back end, then you can also structuring it so that analysis is efficient, and that is true even in qualitative. There are ways to analyze effectively and efficiently if A, the objective is clear, and B, you go in with that mindset of this is a quick, fast process, and we're looking for, as Paula stated, the need to know versus the good to know. And then along that way, also there are ways to streamline recruiting and make that a little bit more efficient without sacrificing quality.
Yeah. So you've got opportunities to streamline the process at various steps, recruiting, field work, the analysis and reporting, and you really have to decide which of those you're going to kind of give on in order to make this happen more quickly and efficiently. And I think, it kind of reminds me of my local hardware store. The guy has a little sign hanging behind the cash register, which I'm sure many folks have seen before, but it basically says customer service. You can have it good, fast, and cheap. Choose any two. And it just really reminds me of Agile Research because, I feel like that oftentimes it comes down to that. Quality, speed, or price, choose any two, but there are trade-offs there. And I'm wondering, particularly when it comes to quality of insights versus, efficiencies and doing it fast or doing it inexpensively, how you all see the trade-offs there and how you sort of work with clients through those trade-offs. I don't know, Paula, how do you balance quality with speed and price?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question because I think I have heard that reference to the sign in your hardware store so many times when it comes to this type of research, and actually just in general when it comes to doing online research, because as soon as everybody wants to sort of kick that timeline into high gear, you have to take a look at where you are willing to compromise in order to get that done faster. And there are some risks associated with doing that, but our goal is to make sure that everything is done with intention. We are setting the process in place so that every single step along the way, we sort of know where everybody's willing to give a little bit along the way. So, as an example, the screener in this type of process is incredibly critical, making sure that we're capturing the right people, because you don't have the time to stop and evaluate qualitative profile grids and go through and spot check everybody and make sure that you're hitting these very specific criteria. So your screener from the outset is one of the most important things, and from there it's about partnering with the right people, setting expectations with your participants as they're going through, knowing the time commitments that they're going to be responsible for, so that when they come in, in one sitting, they know that this is what they have to accomplish and what's going to happen during that time, and what happens if they don't finish as well. We focus on making sure that people are being incentivized correctly, because that's going to get you to your completes.
Yep.
And there's also there's a variety of things that we can do along the way to help keep costs low. Oftentimes recruiting is one of those things that tends to take up the bulk of your budget in a qualitative study. So we can help keep those costs low, but on the back end, we also want to make sure that we're leaving room for cleaning the data at the very end, so that you're capturing the amount of responses that you want and the quality of responses that you want, recognizing that there might be some along the way that you throw out to ensure that when you're reporting on that at the end, it's exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah. I don't know, Ilana, any thoughts on that? Balancing quality versus speed and cheap?
Well, first, I think hardware stores are one of the best places to find yourself in. There's just discover, including life wisdom. Uh, but I think just generally, whether in business or in personal life, one of the biggest challenges we face today is just making sense of the reams of data that are thrown at us. And in research, that usually means investing in quality analysis. And that can mean, but it doesn't have to mean expensive and time consuming, because there are ways to still have that quality analysis while shortening the whole timeline. And that is a lot of the things that Paula was saying on the back end, and then also with the data. And that's also thinking about the research and how you structure the questions, thinking about analysis. And so really, again, it's about approaching this in a smart way, right? Working smarter can be, and often is, working faster. And in that way, to use another sort of silly aphorism, is if you are working smarter, then you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, it makes me think about the rise in what we used to call online communities, and now sort of the online is a given in this day and age. But communities or panels as a mechanism to get insights faster, cheaper, and still maintain that level of quality. So a lot of clients have been, we've seen, establishing communities and managing those, which are basically just panels of consumers that are pre-recruited on call over a period of time that you can reach out to really anytime you want for both qualitative and quantitative research. And I want to come to you first on this, Ilana. I think that online communities are well established these days, but I think that oftentimes the emphasis that's placed on them is on the recruiting and the maintenance of the database, the panel, and the speed of reaching out to them and getting responses back quickly. But in terms of that quality piece, how do you suggest getting the most out of online communities for those clients that have them or that are thinking about establishing them?
Yeah, and it's funny, the way that you just phrased it reminds me of sort of the advent of web searches, right? In some ways, being able to go to Google or whatever web engines were there in the earlier days definitely added efficiencies to our lives, right? No longer did you have to go find the right expert and write them a letter or look in the dictionary. But at the same time, it makes a lot of things so much longer if you're not looking for the right question or know the right sources or whatever. And I think communities have that same potential. There are certainly efficiencies to be found in it. As you mentioned, recruiting can be incredibly streamlined. You have people at your fingertips that you can ask questions to almost at all times, and you don't need to go through the whole process, each and every question or each and every project. But at the same time, there needs to be an approach when asking the questions, right? What are you trying to get at? And then how are you going to analyze it? Because those are parts, like with the Google searches, you don't want to go to the 4th page of searches, right? You want your answer that you want on the top. And that means asking the right question and using the right search terms and thinking through what it is that you actually want before you just jump in.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So what I hear you saying is that, even though you have the speed and efficiency of this panel of people there at the ready, and you can reach out to them anytime you want to, it's still sort of garbage in, garbage out. You still need to think about smart study design, how you're going to do your analysis. All of those rules still apply. And if you're not applying them, you're not going to get quality results. You might get fast results, but you're going to get garbage quickly, and rather than quality insights quickly. I don't know. Paula, what are you seeing in the world of online communities, and what do you think about sort of how clients can get the most out of them in terms of quality insights?
I think that garbage in, garbage out phrase is so appropriate for this world of online communities, because there is this idea that once you build a community, the hard work is done, which is absolutely not true. That's one piece of the process. But in order to keep those people engaged and making sure that you're getting the most out of them, there's a lot of logistics that go into it just to make sure that you're keeping people consistently engaged and focused and that you're getting the most out of them. There are tactics that, we suggest for people, like refreshing your panel every so often, refreshing your community, making sure that you're not just relying on the same people. Ensuring that you establish a regular cadence with people so that they know what to expect and how frequently to expect it, because they're not sitting on the edge of their chair just waiting for you to come out to them any moment. And, Ilana mentioned we get like 120 emails a day, and that's just in the professional world. That doesn't even count the thousands of emails that the rest of us get from stores and vendors and all of these things. So people are not waiting to answer a question that's coming out to the community. And, if you're just like randomly saying every, so often, oh, okay, we have this new idea, they're not expecting that. But if you say every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, once a month on a Tuesday, like this is what you should expect, it's going to take you about this long. You're creating that expectation for them that, oh, they're going to need so much of my time and I can allocate that. And I know to be on the lookout for that request for my feedback.
Yeah.
It keeps that participation much higher. And it also increases the quality of responses.
Yeah. Well, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and which doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon, unfortunately. But I'm curious how, if at all, you've seen COVID impacting the world of Agile research. Has it had any impact? Has it changed the dynamics? I don't know, Paula, what do you think?
I think that it hasn't necessarily impacted the world of Agile. I think that it's impacted the world of online in general. We're seeing a lot more openness to people moving into an online environment. Maybe some people who were resistant to, dabbling in online research and who were just really comfortable with that face-to-face environment. And I think as a result of the number of people who are coming into this online space, there's naturally a greater rise in interest in Agile research. But I think that the two are scalable just based on the number of people who are sort of by necessity who are coming into this online space for the first time.
Yeah. Ilana, I don't know, are you seeing with your clients any impact of the pandemic on, the desire to do Agile research, the need to do it? Any differences there?
I think exactly what Paula said is that it's bringing a lot more people into the online research world. Sometimes by necessity, sometimes by desire. And in doing so, right, there's a lot of different and new types of questions about how to approach research and how to think through research and how to get the desired results. And certainly fast timelines are built into many of these questions. And what we're also seeing is, on the other end, there's a significant shift in respondents as well, as I think we're seeing a greater amount and more diversity of people who are entering the online world also out of necessity.
Yeah.
And that's been super interesting to see. I think response rates and just engagement levels are up. People are feeling a little bit more isolated, and this is a great source of connection. And so really, I think we're seeing a very robust research, online research happening in the times of COVID, which is an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah. Well, great. So just to wrap up, I wonder if each of you could leave folks with one piece of advice. If either a client or a market research person is embarking on an Agile project or thinking about whether Agile is the right approach for whatever they're facing right now, what one piece of advice would you say would be critical to think about to creating the most successful Agile project? Ilana, you want to go first? Put you on the spot.
Thanks. I think it's thinking through how can I approach this research smarter, right? And sometimes that means investing more time at the beginning of a project in order to see those efficiencies towards the middle and towards the end. And some of the things that we've mentioned both Paula and I throughout this conversation, and that's making sure the objective is crystal clear, asking and structuring the research to get to those results quickly, finding ways to streamline recruiting if possible, and also when structuring the research, thinking about analysis from the start is how am I going to read and go through all of this information in a way that gets me the results quickly so that I can then therefore act quickly.
Yeah.
And I really see that as just approaching it smarter to find these efficiencies that exist in the process.
Yeah, great. Paula, one piece of advice?
Yeah, I actually think that what Ilana just suggested is a fantastic piece of advice. I think that it actually layers into my suggestion, which is that I think it's so critical who you work with in this process and picking the right vendors and the right relationships when you're pursuing Agile. Agile, as we've talked about, signifies fast, and fast can create anxiety. And instead of, having people have this anxiety of, oh, okay, well, we just need to go as quickly as possible and just get it done. If you partner with the right people who've done it before, who know how this process works, who can help you streamline and make the right decisions, it's going to go a lot more smoothly because you have that experience and you have a person who's sort of guiding you along the way, as opposed to just having to figure it out and making sure that you're getting it done on this timeline that's been established.
Yeah. I think, Ilana, your point about analysis is something that oftentimes gets forgotten or sort of glossed over, that that thinking through how are we going to streamline analysis and how do we accommodate that when we're designing an agile project up front is critical. And Paula, I love your point about anxiety, which is something that frankly I hadn't thought much about, but it's true. Anytime the timeline is tight or the budget is small, but there's pressure on insights people, particularly within client companies, the anxiety levels are up, and so you want to be with a partner who's going to help comfort you a little bit in that process by knowing what they're doing. So this has been great. So thank you guys for being here. Once again, Ilana Borzak, who is a project director and senior insights consultant with RealityCheck, and Paula Kramer, who is a vice president and qualitative researcher at AHA online platform. Thank you too for helping us out.
Thank you.
And as always, please share your comments with us. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how you see the future of Agile research unfolding and what it takes to execute a successful insights project. Hope you found this interesting. Until next time, everybody be safe out there. I'm Jim White with RealityCheck. Talk to you later.